Welcome, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We're getting a little bit of a late start, but we're going to keep this agenda very, very well run. And I just wanted to say this is our second time doing this. We did it a year ago, and we got such a great response from all of you that we hope we put together an agenda today that's going to be very useful. And I just wanted to get a few admin things out of the way. One is if you have mobile phones, if you could please put them on silent or turn them off. And I've been given instructions on fire exits. So if there is a fire, we need to get out through these doors. And there are signs. We go to the left and then to the right. And I'm told that if the alarm goes off, it is definitely not a test. We had an experience just recently in our UK Google office where we got an email in the morning saying, oh, the weather's amazing. We're going to have barbecue today out in our terrace in the cafe. And so everyone went. It was great. Hamburgers back after lunch in the office, in meetings, or at the desk, or in the office. And all of a sudden, the alarm went off. And I think we all thought it was a test again. But kind of filed out, got down, and then all of a sudden, real fire engines were coming in front of our building. And we looked up, and actually there was smoke coming from the terrace next to the barbecue that had done all the hamburgers. And our sad only palm tree was going up in flames. So. The agenda, I think you probably looked through it. If you want to see what's coming ahead, it's within your packs. And we also have these conversion experts in the lab coats over there. And if you want any insights or tips on your websites, just go up to these gentlemen in their kiosks, and they can look at your website real time with you. There's also going to be a breakout at the very end after we finish, and we're having lunch for those that want to have a working lunch, and they're going to focus on conversion and a few other things as well. So I really hope you get a lot out of it today. And without further ado, I wanted to introduce our first speaker from Google, who's going to kick things off and set the scene. Philipp Schindler has done amazing things within Google, and outside of Google, he's a very keen extreme sport enthusiasts. So he got into kite surfing, for example. Does anyone know what kite surfing is? Yes, a few. Has anyone tried it? No? Okay, so no one's tried it. So Philipp was doing this in the early days when it was borderline crazy. But I think we're in very good hands because, as we all know, with how fast the consumer is shifting, that you have to be able to make very quick decisions, kind of enjoy the thrill of the ride as well. So Philipp Schindler, our Vice President of Northern and Central Europe, please come to the stage.
So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here. I didn't know you were going to talk about my kite surfing life. I literally just relocated my family to London last week. I thought it's such a great city for kite surfing. So it's a pleasure to be here. It's a wonderful experience. I really love it, everything I've seen so far. Not sure I can keep up this porch thing in the morning, I have to say. No, that's a little unusual. I want to start with telling you a little story. It's a real story that happened actually to a friend of mine who went with his 2-year-old kid into a store for musical. Who has kids here in the room? Just so I get a feeling of this. Okay, 2-year-old, so that's still pretty small. Went into a store for musical instruments, and then asked his little son, which instrument do you want to play one day when you are an adult, a grown-up? And what do you think the little boy answered? He said, iPod. So as you can see, and this is a real story, there is something happening out there. There is, some people talk about a revolution, some people say it's a very intense evolution, but the world is really changing, and it's changing at a pace that at least I have never seen before in my life. And just to give you a few data points about this, 43% of EU adults are now using the internet almost every single day, and we're talking about all EU adults. And this figure obviously becomes much bigger if you take a look at some of the more advanced markets like the UK, because we have obviously some of the not as intensely developed market in the EU in there. It also becomes a much higher number, obviously, if you look at the younger targets group. People, look at the second number, people across the globe are searching at a rate of 3.6 billion, 3.6 billion searches per day. Per day. Just imagine how navigating the web and how you interact with your computer has changed over the last years. More than 20 hours of new material is added to YouTube every single minute. Just to give you a feeling for what this means, this is the equivalent to the output of 1,200 television stations. 1,200 television stations per day. I think this is pretty big numbers. There are also a lot of trends in the world of retail and the world of e-commerce, which most of you in the room here as the distinguished experts are probably more than familiar with. According to Eurostat, 64% of UK adults actually use the internet to find information about goods and services at least once in the past 3 months. But, and I think that's an important one, and all of you here in the room are aware of this as well, it doesn't stop just as research. People are always increasingly taking it all the way to the purchase process. Did you know 70% of UK web users will make at least one purchase online in 2009? 70%. That's roughly 27 million people. That's a very, very, very big number. UK online sales overall hit 4.2 billion in July 2009. Only in the month of July 2009, that's up roughly 70% year on year, comes down to somewhere around £86 per internet user per month in the month of July. And even for those who do not make then the online purchase actually online, do not underestimate the role that the internet then can actually play in the purchasing process. We have our own word for it. We call it the ROPO effect, the Research Online Purchase Offline effect. According to Forrester data, 45% of European internet users say that in the past 3 months they have researched a product online and then actually bought it in a shop. That's what we call the ROPO effect internally at Google. And in fact, click and collect services, where goods are ordered online and then picked up from a store, are actually one of the internet retail's fastest growing trend that we currently see. And the data point you see here at the bottom of the chart, 70% of Argus sales to year, end of Feb 09, actually came through their, what they call the click and reserve service. So I think this is a very impressive testament of some of the changes that are also not happening in the traditional wider online and digital world, but also in the retail and e-commerce world. But the big question for everybody here in the room, obviously also the big question for us, is where are we heading and what is going to happen? And there are a lot of different trends, and what I have planned here is just to take you through a few trends looking at, and there are many, many more, just 4 key developments that we are currently foreseeing where I think they might be relevant to many of you here in the room. The first trend that we're seeing, and you all know increasingly we live in an on-demand world, is the trends towards what we internally call always on. People expect to be able and to have access to everything whenever and wherever they choose. On the internet, as you all know, shops are always open. So don't miss out on it. Just make sure your customers can find you all the time, 24/7. And just maybe as a quick question to everybody here, how many, and this obviously is not only for 24/7, but this also relates to the amount of, for the example, searches that you actually book something against. So just to give you a simple question, how many keywords do you think our top advertisers are actually using with us, booking with us? Just to give you an idea, do you think it's like 1,000, 5,000, 10,000? Large advertisers, advanced markets, 50, 100,000, 500,000, a million, way over a million? Well, let me tell you, some of our most sophisticated advertisers are easily going way beyond the 1 million barrier, way beyond several million keywords. And obviously, and this everybody here in the room, I assume, knows this, is obviously also relates to, for example, misspellings are a part of this. We ran an interesting analysis quite a while ago. We took a look at how many different ways people actually misspell. So not theoretically in how many different ways can you misspell, but in how many different ways is the word Britney Spears actually being misspelled in our systems. What do you think? 852 times. Might be the target group also, but but the interesting point about this is if you're in the business of selling anything that relates to Britney Spears and somebody misspells Britney Spears, would you want to be there with your offer, yes or no? Obviously, yes, in all 852 cases, you would want to be there. But just to give you a more pragmatic example, here are some data points on what I talked about, the always-on effect, and why it's so important. This is a chart that comes from our Google Insights for Search service. Most of you here, I assume, know this inside out. And it shows you the volume of shopping-related searches actually during the month of December in 2008. And unsurprisingly, as you can see, in the run-up to Christmas, there is obviously a lot of search activity going on. But what is interesting, if you take a look at Christmas Day itself here, it is actually higher than any other time preceding it in December. And then obviously it skyrockets here on Boxing Day. I think everybody understands this. This is where the serious bargain hunting starts. By the way, quite interesting, slightly different patterns in other European markets. But who would have thought, actually, I would have not expected the data, the shopping online at Christmas. I mean, this is searching online on the Christmas day being so overproportionally big. And the interesting thing is people also buy on that day. It's not that they only search for it on that day, they actually buy, because you would have think, hey, come on, I mean, it's too late for delivery on Christmas, but they literally buy. We have data that says that on Christmas Day in 2008, there was a total spending of 102 million pounds on that single day alone. So a difficult one probably to predict just from your natural feeling, which takes me right away to the second point, or the second big trend that we're going to see. We call it moving from data-rich to data-driven. Most business today probably don't suffer from a lack of data. It's probably rather the opposite. They're rather drowning in too much data. But the problem is that they don't always have the right data in the right reliable format, in the right time frame that allows them to actually draw conclusions that lead them right away to what we call really actionable insights. So we're working very hard, and a lot of other companies are doing as well, to actually develop new tools and techniques. And a lot of this stuff is obviously internet and online based that are making it possible for business to spot patterns in their customers' behavior and in the perceptions nearly real time, much easier, and a much easier way to actually digest that type of information. And as I said, we're developing a lot of the tools, and you'll hear about some of this later, whether it's website optimizer, analytics, bid, simulator, and so on. And one area where this will become, and this is another part of my prediction here as a pragmatic example, one area where this will become extremely important going forward, and we see a dramatic increase in activity in this one, is when it comes to the whole world of obviously conversion optimization and trying to make sure that you generate the maximum conversion from your websites. And just to give you a very simple example where the smart, how do you say this in English, the smart application of data has yielded incredible successes. We've worked with Comet. We ran tests on a very, very simple and sophisticated at the same time, tests on how they displayed information on their checkout page. And we found that by simplifying the checkout form and actually removing distracting information led to an improvement in conversion of over 7%, which you all know is a very, very, very significant number. And another example with Next is we spotted that the poor search functionality that they had meant that a lot of prospective shoppers were actually not finding what they were actually wanted or what they were actually searching for. So we worked, which is obviously an area that we understand a bit about, how to improve the search results, and it made a huge difference, and we saw a decline of 19% in the exit rate in that category. So this is very, very significant numbers, as you know. So looking at data in a smart way, and using the right tools to simplify this overabundance of chaotic data that we often have to live with is something we highly recommend. And I can tell you, we see more and more people using this. This is one of the biggest trends at the moment. Another one is, if you take a step back, we called it visualization. If you take a step back of how the web has developed, and if you look at the world we've lived in the past, it was basically a digital text-based world. And we all know it has, over the years, then extended to images. It has, or it is on the way currently to extend to video. It is becoming more and more the norm across the world to actually have product demonstrations, not only as a picture, but actually as a video. But by the way, which one is the second largest search engine in the world? Just to undermine that point. Yeah, I just heard it here. It's actually true. It's YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine by now in the world, just to give you an idea of how important audio visual information, especially the video, has become for people in digesting information. So this is obviously a very big one. But the 2 points that I want to point out when it comes to visualization, the first one, and this is one that seems so old and everybody seems to have always heard about it, but whenever we run any type of analysis in what you can do to improve conversion rates, the number one distinguishing factor, the number one differentiator between the good performers and the bad performers tends to actually be the loading speed of their website. So whenever you think about visualization and all those fancy things that are possible going forward, actually loading speed, and this is something where actually ourselves, we do a lot of optimizations even on our websites, and I don't think anybody would say that the Google homepage is the most graphically intense website that you've ever seen, but you wouldn't believe how much time and energy is spent in measuring down to the millisecond the loading speed of our core website every single day. And there are a lot of people trying to improve this, even going forward every single day, because it so closely correlates with revenue on our site, and we know from a lot of partners this is the same with them. And by the way, I'm not sure who has followed the press here, but if you take a look at the brand new product that we launched a couple of days ago, we call it Fast Flip. It's a product where we're trying to support the publishing industry. Just take a look, Google for it, Fast Flip. You will see this is basically something which is built on making the web experience significantly faster. It looks nice, but it's also the speed behind it, which is the relevant driver. The next part of it, it's not only about the fast, it's also about the personalization. And this is not a new notion, but there are some really amazing new things that are going to happen going forward when you combine video and visualization. And just to get an understanding of what you are aware of and what you've seen in the past, a quick question: who has seen the video from the Obama campaign here in the room with the individualization where you can actually have your own name integrated into the video? Who here in the room has seen this? Just a quick question. I only see one hand, so I apologize to the 3 hands I see there. I'm just quickly going to run it just to give you an idea of where personalization as part of video is going to go going forward. Can we run the video, please?
The nation was shocked Tuesday night to see John McCain defeat Barack Obama by a single vote.
We sure showed them what a comeback looks like.
For many, shock soon turned to outrage as the New York Times revealed the identity of the particular non-voter responsible for Obama's loss. In just a few short days, this private citizen has become a national pariah. Fearing retribution, local police took the non-voter into protective custody yesterday at City Hall. Disgruntled citizens have been demonstrating ever since.
We were supposed to Barack the vote, but what happened? The vote didn't even get Baracked.
I waited in line 5 hours to vote with an arthritic hip, and this mother lazy couldn't get out of bed in time to vote. International
reaction has been just as intense, even in some of the most remote locations.
यो मेरो अनुभवमा यो 2-4 सालभन्दा अहिले 5वटा पोखरी फुट्यो.
However, the non-voter has become a hero to a small sliver of the population.
I thank you for your service. I thank you for what you've done for the United States of America.
Bet that guy is a factor viewer. He's also a patriot.
Coming up, how long until we nuke Iran? Experts say it could be as early as Saturday, around lunchtime.
So I have another example, but I'll skip this in the interest of time. But this video, and this is the interesting thing about this, this video was created real time. So I literally entered my name, and a second later, the video was in my inbox exactly customized the way you see it here. And we have personally used that type of technology at Google for some internal invitations, and you can probably rebuild such a video for, well, I'm not sure, everything in the UK is a little bit more expensive. I was just going to say less than 10,000 euros, maybe it's a little bit more, but it's not expensive technology anymore. It is absolutely feasible to do this kind of stuff, and some companies are even taking it to the next level. One company, which is the Dutch Facebook, is actually going a step further, and they're building such a video. When you click on it, they're actually parsing the pictures from your Dutch Facebook experience right away into the video. So when you look at the video and there is a wall where you can actually see pictures in the video, it's actually the pictures of your friends. It's extremely scary to look at, but it's also extremely fascinating. Just gives you an idea of where product visualization and personalization will go to going forward. So we quickly. The next big trend, and I think everybody here in the room has talked about this for a long time, the mobile internet is finally starting to arrive. And I think it is especially exciting for retailers. There are already some very fascinating services starting to emerge worldwide that just give you an idea, give you a glimpse of what is possible here. You all know about the success of apps. If you look at the apps, the iPhone applications, if you look at the latest data, more than 1.8 billion iPhone apps have been downloaded so far. So the application development, the application trend is probably one of the biggest that we can see in the mobile world. Especially if you start making this not only, if you start using this in a smart way, potentially even as a pizza retailer. And here is a quick example of what Pizza Hut is actually doing with an application. It was launched in mid-July 2009, and this is just not a bland replica of the normal online ordering facility. It brings really a completely new level of interactivity to the experience of buying a pizza. So you can build their own pizza by choosing a type of crust with your scroll wheel on it. You can pinch to select the size. You can drag and drop the different toppings onto the pizza. And then when you're waiting for it to be delivered, they are actually giving you a free game, which is called the Hut Racer, where you can race a car to avoid pizza box obstacles and so on. And then it will basically been delivered. And this application was actually downloaded more than 150,000 times. Pretty successful, I think, for just a pizza full delivery type of application. And there are a lot of other examples. There's even an example from Kraft Foods where they have to build their own application, actually sold it successfully. It successfully sold it to their customers several 100,000 times as a little shopping guide. Another fascinating example, which uses a part of something which we call augmented reality, is a Dutch company here. Again, the company is called Layer, and they started in Amsterdam. And what you can see here is you simply hold up your phone at places where you want to know more about, and then the phone camera actually displays the image on the phone screen exactly at what you're pointing at. So combining the compass information and the geocoded information that you have from your GPS. And companies can actually build different types of layers. So they're partnering with a lot of companies. So you can, for example, see available ATMs. You can see locations of doctors. You can see locations of properties for sale. You can build your own layers. You can share your layers with friends and so on. So there's a whole world of new interactivity being designed, being developed based on the mobile experience and the fact that you can have actually this interesting type of visualization, that you have a camera built in, and that you have actually geocoded information. So just roll this forward and imagine what this could mean to promotions, what this could mean to customers walking around the street, and you telling them about interesting things about your business. So this is still seems to be quite a long way away, but if you take a look at the speed of smartphone sales at the moment, in certain areas, smartphone sales actually are already outpacing laptop sales. You can get a feeling of where we're heading, and I think this is what I wanted to talk about here a little bit. So I apologize for going a little bit over the time. I just wanted to make the point that we are in the middle of one of the most exciting times that I've seen so far. It is a very big transition. It's a bigger transition probably than the advent of television. Catherine the Great apparently has said once, a great wind is blowing, and that gives you either imagination or a headache. I'm sure most of you here in the room will enjoy those challenges. We'll see it. We'll be on the imagination end of the spectrum. I know our next speakers are clearly on the imagination end of the spectrum. So thank you very much for coming to us here. It's an honor to have you here, and it's an honor for us to work with everybody here in the room.